Welcome, my people, to another episode of Exclusive Visions podcast, Love, Life, and Business, where we discuss real life and business issues that matter. Now, oh my God, I'm just blessed with this guest today. You get me? Like, we have royalty in the building. This lady I have tracked down, I have begged and pleaded to come onto the show before it actually goes to superstardom. I want everyone to see her, but I didn't know her before she got to that celebrity status. You get me? So when people need a little introduction, like I said, I know her. So in a moment, I'm gonna let the special guest introduce herself, but she's absolutely amazing. Been a friend, been supporting me in all my business adventures, being great, doing great talks. So can we introduce the wonderful Queen Charlene in the house? Yoo-hoo!
Indeed.
You weren't supposed to get involved in
I
all
know,
that.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
you guys. I don't want to be hearing that. You get me? Yeah, you know what? When I get women excited, you get me? And Charlene, introduce yourself.
Okay, so as you said, my name's Charlene Douglas. I'm a sex therapist, a psychodynamic counsellor. You're going to say, what's that?
Mhm.
And an intimacy coach.
How do you know my people don't know what's the word you just said?
Right. A psychodynamic counsellor.
Okay, you can explain that in a second. But before we do a deep dive into these wonderful questions that we're going to be doing, Stretch, I told you, if I keep swinging, kick the chair, please. Can everyone please subscribe to our YouTube channel? Press the notification bell. If you do like what you see, thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm not too fast. Leave a comment as well so we know how we can make things even better. And we also have our Patreon packages as well. So click onto the link and support what we're doing if you like what we're doing anyway. So it's very important because if we don't support the things that we like, it's going to disappear. But as long as I can continue, I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Now, Charlene, this is over to you. I have been mad excited about this one. This show, let's talk about sex. One of the three things I'm great at doing and talking about, and we're going to be discussing the George, what are you laughing for? I mean, there's a slip of the tongue. Stretch, make sure you edit that, yeah? But yeah, we got some great questions today, but I want people to really get to know you. So introduce who you are, what you do, that long title you said earlier as well. Can you please explain that before we go a bit deeper?
Sure. Okay. So I'm a sex therapist. So most people know what that is. So I work with people that have issues.
Sure, that everyone knows what it is. Like, so if I can't get it up, then people come to you. So you can give me Viagra.
So I don't prescribe that, but you can get that over the counter now anyway. So
But okay, so you don't push the Viagra stuff, no?
No,
No,
not
okay.
doesn't quite work
Yeah,
like that. So I kind of work more with the psychology of it all, like the mind.
Okay, the mind. Okay, cool.
You know, so for example, if people are having problems with erections, then it will be okay. Bear in mind,
In my mind,
maybe
I think George is taking notes here. So I'm thinking, George, you okay? I'm playing. Go on, Charlie.
so yeah, so if people are having problems with, like, say, or men have problems with erections, for example, then so my work would be to talk to them about what is causing maybe the anxiety that's kind of leading to that. We look at the quality of the relationship that they're having, their relationship to sex, like how they were taught about sex, you know, their view on sex, etc. So we kind of explore what's really happening to cause the anxiety. So yeah, erectile dysfunction's one of the things I work with. Issues around orgasms, issues around ejaculation. I mean, the list goes on. So that's the kind of the work of the sex therapist. In terms of the psychodynamic counselling, so that would be working with people that maybe have issues with like anxiety or depression, addiction, that type of thing. And so the work there would be looking at kind of patterns of behaviour, maybe looking at childhood situations, like what happened in their childhood to kind of contribute to where they are today. Yeah, kind of what's going on unconsciously for somebody. That's kind of the psychodynamic world. And then the intimacy coach thing is to help people to get it on.
All right, so you look at the mental issues that people may be having around intimacy, sex, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then after you help them build a great, wonderful relationship with self and with their partners or partner as well, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And also, I think when I speak to a lot of people, sex is quite taboo still. So although they may have the speech where they say, yeah, it's fine having sex, it's not a big deal, we're all adults, etc., I then work with them on, are you really happy with the sex that you're having? Are you really happy talking about sex, having sex? And so when you really explore it, and this is men and women, you realise sometimes that people feel a bit uncomfortable, don't really know what they're doing, because, you know, where do we learn this stuff from? You know,
Porno.
I know you was going to say that. I'm not like I led you into that. Well, yeah, but then, you know, I suppose if you're learning things from porn, then, you know, there could be some problems there, because, you know, quite a lot of it is fake, isn't it? And not really.
Is it? It's like wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a joke, or did you think it was real?
Yeah, the way that no, it's not real. I thought all the time for porn was real.
Well, I think it's good in terms of education, like, you know, the basics, you know, like if you're looking at heterosexual sex, you know, like penis goes into vagina, how does it work? Then porn will show you that, right? Or, you know, oral sex, you know, oral sex skills, that type of thing, and then you'll learn it on there.
Jamaican don't do oral sex.
Is that? No, okay. I was going to say something else. I won't do it. I won't say it.
Hey, just throwing it out there, yeah. But okay, so what you do, right? You do some wonderful stuff. But what made you go down this path of, like, I can't imagine you sitting down with your mum and saying, "Hey, you know what, mum? I want to do stuff around sex." And that was a great conversation. So what actually led you down this path of doing this?
I think just speaking to family, friends, and realising that actually there were so many people that didn't really know what they were doing when it came to sex, and people that weren't enjoying sex, you know. So oftentimes I'd get like the woman saying, actually, I'm just doing it because that's the thing to do, and then guys would be like, well, guys would enjoy it, they'd be having a good time, but even that, they would be having a good time, but in terms of like the real, like getting down the intimacy, the real connection, you know, that wasn't always there. So I'd say to guys, like, you know, when you're having sex, can you look into your partner's eyes? They'll be like, no, I'm not doing that. And it's like,
Really?
yeah, is that something, does that surprise you?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell are you doing then if you're not looking at her?
Well, I think sometimes they just sort of focus on on their craft, and, you know, maybe focus on, like, you know, is she enjoying it? You know, as opposed to really kind of connecting and looking into each other's eyes, because, you know, that can be quite a vulnerable thing to sort of look into each other's eyes whilst you're making love. You know, if you're really in love with somebody, so I think that can be quite difficult. So some of the work that I do when I'm working with couples is, you know, I was going to say not to like be there when they're doing it or anything like that, but, you know, kind of help them to sort of be able to look into each other's eyes, hold each other's hands, look into each other's eyes for like a minute, and hold that gaze. And that could be really difficult for them. But it's like, well, that kind of is what you need if you want an intimate connection with somebody.
And I think that's absolutely great, and it leads nicely onto my question I want to ask you. How would you define intimacy? Like, for someone like me, I believe intimacy is when you really connect with someone, you can show sympathy, not just sympathy, empathy towards the other individual, but you have that deep connection where you want to understand. I think that's the better word I want to describe it. When you truly want this true understanding of how this person is thinking, feeling, emotionally, and you have that connection, you hold that space for that individual, so therefore you can build that rapport with them. How would you describe intimacy?
So I think, yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, I think it's definitely more than sex, and, you know, oftentimes people use the word intimacy to relate to having sex. Um, so for me, it really is about having that deep connection with somebody where you feel, I suppose, what we call like emotionally safe. So have you ever been in those types of relationships where you can just be yourself, you know, in every sense of the word? So if you know, if you get something wrong, you know, your partner's sort of emotionally holding you still, you know, they've got you, sort of thing. You know, it's that kind of where you're so connected that you feel really safe. And sometimes I find that when you have conversations with partners about maybe things that you've been through in the past, you know, where you just notice that you're kind of coming together, you know, through that kind of vulnerability in a way, and you know, it's probably quite hard to explain, but I think so many of us have experienced it, where you just feel more connected with somebody. You can be yourself, and we can have this not just in romantic relationships. This could be with even with friends. So there might be a time where you and your friend are laughing about something, and there's just a sense of connection. And it's, I suppose, being able to get to that point that's not always easy for everyone to do.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of people that I speak to, actually, they do struggle with the whole intimacy side of things. Like, they can do, like, I guess it's like, from a man's perspective, I'm gonna really speak about. I know a lot of men now believe, okay, providing for the home doing what they're supposed to do as a man, that constitute of like one showing love, showing affection towards someone to show that they're looking after responsibility. But that intimacy part where I believe women truly, I won't say even crave, but desire it, is when you really are just there, like you just emotionally just available for the person just to. I know for some people it's going to be challenging because it was for me. Intimacy, just listening was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, it was so painful. It's just holding that space and just listening and just giving up the other person that freedom just to express themselves without any judgment or any backlash from what they were saying. Oh my goodness, that took me so long to really understand how to do that. And I'm
Yeah.
not too sure if you've come across that yourself with other men as well.
Yeah, most definitely. I think if you think about it, oftentimes our parents weren't of, weren't that way in terms of the way they communicated, the way that they connected with one another. So we haven't learned it from anywhere necessarily. So we've had to sort of learn it as we go along. So you get to an age, and I'm obviously still young, but
Definitely.
maybe like 'cause a bit older than me, that you get to a stage where you've learned about relationships and you've learned about yourself, and you do want to get closer to somebody. And you can be in a relationship with somebody where you don't agree with what they're saying, but you can respect where they're coming from. I think that's the thing, where you can agree to disagree, but you can respect where someone's coming from. And what you mentioned there about kind of the guy wanting to provide and maybe the woman kind of wanting that sort of physical connection. I suppose it goes back to those sort of 5 love languages, doesn't it, in terms of being able to identify what you need to feel loved, and what your partner needs as well. Because I think so often we think, okay, well, I'm doing all this for my partner, he or she doesn't do that for me. But it's like, but is that their number one love language? And it's possible that it's not. So it's really about communication, isn't it, and working out what they need and what you need.
And I love that. I do love that. And the book, The Five Love Languages, was a great book. But I think it allowed me to have that grounding in understanding what my love languages was, first of all, which I really responded to,
Yeah,
and what my partner's was. And I think the five love languages, and George, if you can literally just Google this as well, because I might miss one.
I can reel them off for sure.
You go ahead. Go on.
Okay, now I'm on the spot now.
Yeah.
So gifts.
Yep.
Acts of service.
Yeah, that's my top two, by the way.
Gifts and acts of service. Yeah. Quality time.
Yep.
Physical touch. Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Look at you.
Yes.
Okay. My top two. you go, girl.
Excited there.
Yeah. So my top two is definitely gifts is number 2, and acts of services for me is number 1. And when I learned what my love languages really are, and you can have a combination of all of them really.
Yeah.
But those are my top primary ones. And when someone really takes the time to implement that into my life, for me, that they're really showing me love because they took the time to understand me. Now, I'm going to throw something out there, quick curveball, right? And I want to hear your understanding on this.
Okay.
My thing's about gifts, right? This is my thing about gifts.
Yeah.
If you get someone a gift because you think it's thoughtful from your point of view, but you're not too sure if the other person's going to like it, to me, it's like you took the mick. Like, you haven't taken the time to understand what I really like. And you got someone, and you expect me to be grateful because you got it for me, but I don't like it. Like, people say that I'm ungrateful or it's hard to get Dean a gift. I'm like, if you took the time to understand what I like and you got me a gift which you know I'm going to appreciate, is that not, that's to me is a true gift.
Yeah.
Like, if you get me something because I like this and he should like this because I bought it from him, I think no, you're taking a mick right now. What's your thoughts on that, Charlene? Cause I know there's bigger people like this. I want to throw this out there because you're professional. You get me?
Well, I suppose it's what's important for you, and I don't want to sort of give a politician's answer by saying that, but I think it's what's important for you. So, if gifts are important for you, what it sounds like is actually the quality of the gift and the thought behind it is really important for you as well.
Yes.
I think sometimes for some people, to be given a gift, even if it's not something that they really want, that taps into their love language, because it's like, yes, it's not really what I really want, but the very fact that they thought this was what I wanted is beautiful. So one of my love languages, gifts, is somewhere down there. It's not, I won't say it's a top one necessarily, but if someone buys me something, if it's not really something I particularly like, I'm quite honest. I'd probably say it's not really my style, but I really appreciate the effort that they've gone to get it for me. It would annoy me if I've said to them it's not really my thing, and then every year they get me the same thing. I'd be like, what's going on here? You ain't listen to me. What's going on? Do you know what I mean? But I think it's important. I think if there's, if you feel that a gift needs to have that kind of quality element to it, and you've told that person that, then hopefully they love you enough to listen to you.
Pay attention, people. But I think no, people now understand me. Like, you just ask me, and it makes your life 10 times easier. Because I am very grateful when you get me something that I actually do like.
Yeah.
Just throwing this out there. But you recently was on Good Morning Britain.
Yes.
And I was so proud to see you there. I was like, I know her.
Oh,
I was like, that she knows my name, you get, people. So I was just blessed, and now you're sitting in front of me. Yeah. So what was it like, and what was you on there for?
So first of all, I have to say, doing live TV is on a whole new level of nerve-wracking. And I thought that,
the whole thing was live?
Live, yeah. Good Morning Britain was live. So it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kate Garraway saying, "Okay, Charlene Douglas, what are your thoughts?" And I'm like, Kate's talking to me. So it was nerve wracking. But the topic, and that's what I'm confident in terms of the topic area. So I just try and focus on that. So that particular topic was about a sexual consent app that was being rolled out in Denmark. And they just wanted to get my views on whether I thought it was a good idea for something like that to be rolled out in the UK, which I don't think is a good idea at all. That's the answer to that. But yeah, great experience being on the show and everything like that. But I think, like I said, nothing beats live TV. It's
and you've done Channel 4 as well. You've done other shows as well. So I'm plugging you in here. Yeah. So talk to us about that. The Channel 4 show.
So that was the Sex Clinic. So I did that I think it aired last year, February 2020, which was good. That was my first experience of the TV world. So and again, as I said, I just focus on my craft. So I'm not somebody that knows particularly what to do on TV as it were. I just focus on my craft, and that seems to get me by. So
and when's your own TV show, podcast, when you starting your launching your own thing?
Don't really have any plans to do that, to be honest. Not really. And I don't say this in any boastful way, but there's quite a lot that's come my way from a TV point of view that I'm quite busy with.
So there's more in the pipeline coming.
There is, yeah. There's a few contracts to be signed with some other shows that are happening, so I'm sort of focused on those at the moment.
Oh, so I'm so I should be grateful really that you're here now. Before, like, I can't. You're unreachable.
I will never be unreachable to you, Dean.
Right, I'm gonna go back to the consent thing, because that's actually one of my questions I have here today. I wanted to ask you, and this is a big thing.
Yeah.
So I've been speaking to several people about this whole consent thing. It's now becoming a big issue around, especially for young men. And I want to throw this out there. This is so important. And consent now, and how I just feel this world is gone. No, it's the Western world, really. It's so sensitive to almost everything you do with this whole council culture as well. If they don't like what you're doing, or you may have done something in the past which was okay back then, but now it's wrong.
Yeah.
The whole consent thing, and I would love for you to really bring your expertise into this as well. So I'm going to give you scenarios, and I would love you to let me know, and also the viewers know as well, if it's right, wrong, or is it a grey area, whatever. So my understanding of consent is very simple. If both of you say yes, it's good to go. But anytime during the process, if you're having sex, the other person says no, you just stop. That's just my basic understanding of it.
Yeah.
Right? But these are real life scenarios. If a man and a woman's having sex, right? Yeah. And the man is at the point of about to ejaculate, right? And the woman says, she can make me see him, like, he's at that point, and she says, no, no, no. He carries on for an extra 2-3 seconds. Is that rape?
Yes.
That was just straight simple.
Well, I mean, I think if she's saying stop, it doesn't matter what point he's at. She said stop.
Okay, so the human understanding of all this here, just being like biological human beings, at that time, it's very difficult for a man to be able to stop at that moment. But is there no consideration? The moment she just says no, that's it. Like, he should stop, even though biologically, in that point, it's like he's in that literally heightened emotional state. He just like should be able to control all of that and just stop.
What we're talking about here, we talk about, so they're having penetrative sex,
penetrative sex, yeah.
and he's about to come inside her, is what you're saying, and she says stop.
Mm-hmm.
So if she's saying stop at any point, he needs to remove himself from her because she doesn't want it anymore. It's not impossible for a man to move his body even though he's about to ejaculate. So, you know, you can ejaculate wherever you want to, but you can move your body outside of her if she's telling you to. Do you know what I mean? She's telling you that she doesn't want it inside her anymore because she has a right to do that.
No, I totally agree. She definitely has a right. But my thing is definitely. I'm just thinking about from the biological standpoint. The man is in like a different position, different mindset, and to do it at that point, I was thinking, is there like any type of leeway or understanding if he does like one extra stroke and he comes and stuff like that? Is that still classed as rape, or is it like, you know what? It's a human biology thing.
I think you would hope that, you know, if you're having sex with, as a woman, if you're having sex, I say as a woman, as a heterosexual woman, if you're having sex with a guy and at any point you're saying to him to stop, because it could be for any reason. It could be that it's hurting. It could be that you're uncomfortable. It could be that, you know, something has been triggered in you from a past relationship. You know, if you're in a situation where you respect the person you're having sex with, then you'd like to think that they would, you know, they don't want to hurt you in any way. So if you're saying stop, they would stop. And I'm not saying stop in terms of they don't then continue to become sexually aroused and excited, but stop in terms of coming outside of the woman's body and ejaculating on the floor. Do you know what I mean? Whatever. Because their sexual needs are still going to be met there, but respect what she said.
Okay, so really and truly what you're saying is a man should be able to control himself at all times, no matter the situation.
A man can control himself if he wants to. It's a choice.
Okay, I definitely agree. I'll make sure this is clear. Yeah, I definitely agree where you're coming from. But I'm just talking about real life scenarios what have come to me and I've had discussions about. So I said I'm talking to a professional right now, so I was going to hear different stuff.
No, I appreciate that. I think what happens is, I suppose as a woman, I feel like I then become protective over all women. Where it's like, of course, you're telling them to stop, like, you know. And I suppose, but you know, it is important to have these kind of discussions, and you know, hopefully, listeners, viewers, you know, they get something from that, because maybe there are people out there that are not aware of that. But you know, if a guy is, you know, getting to that point of no return, as we call it, you know, they can choose to ejaculate somewhere else.
Okay.
What she's saying, if she's saying to not ejaculate in me or to stop kind of penetrating me, you can ejaculate somewhere else. So you still get a sexual buzz, but it just doesn't have to be inside her.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. Scenario number 2. At a party, I'm under the influence. I'm like almost wasted.
Yeah.
So is the woman.
Yeah.
We both go upstairs. We have the grown-up dance upstairs.
Grown-up dance?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called now?
Yeah, grown-up dance upstairs.
Okay.
And then after, a couple of days later, she turns around and says that I raped her. Is that the case?
You know, those types of situations I think are really tricky. I think, you know, in a court of law, they would have to prove that, I would imagine that for it to be seen as rape, that you'd have to be able to prove that the guy was of sound mind. And they would probably do that by kind of like, you know, blood levels of alcohol in your blood, etc., to see, you know, was he in a space where he really didn't know what he was doing. So I suppose if you're both intoxicated and you're both consenting adults, as much as you can consent when you're drunk, but you really can't, but it's both adults, let's say, then they may not see it as rape. But I think that if a woman is saying that she was raped by a guy, then obviously an investigation would take place. I suppose it's, it depends on kind of the alcohol level in the blood, I would imagine.
All right. So this one's more down to the law and interpretation and evidence and everything else.
Yeah.
Okay. These things are clear. The reason why I'm asking these kind of things, because these things actually have happened, and I just wanted to see just your viewpoints on this. So I'm going to give you the last scenario, and then after that, I really want to hear your real definition of what consent really looks like in today's world and how everything is.
Yeah.
So another scenario, and I know it's happened to a lot of people, even myself, right?
Yeah.
So this one kind of personal. I want to hear your thoughts on this. So me and my missus, we had an argument. she's got on my nerves, right? Cool.
Mm.
We've gone to bed, and I'm like, she's like, oh, you know what, baby, let me make it up to you, and da 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 da. I'm like, no, leave me alone. Don't touch me, don't talk to me. Like, we'll discuss this in the morning. And she's
Mm.
like, oh, let me just look after your knees. And I'm like, no, don't touch me. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
All right. So I've gone to sleep as a man, okay, because I'm literally me. I'm just mad active all the time. Sometimes I get a little hard on it when I'm sleeping. Okay,
Yeah.
just throw it out there.
Yeah.
It happens to men.
Yeah.
Okay, we have that. We do that. She decides while I'm sleeping to use this as an opportunity to literally have sex with me. Right?
Okay.
Cool. Has she raped
In my view, yes,
me? Okay. And why is that?
because you haven't given consent.
All right. So even if I now, like, she's done, even though I said no from the beginning, okay, don't touch me, da 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 da, and she has had sex with me, she has actually raped me. But if I now literally join in, like, okay, she's doing this, I'm enjoying it, whatever, does that override the initial thing?
You know what? That's an interesting question. I think, and
Throw it out there, throw it out
and I would
there.
imagine that even if it went to court, that prosecutors, defendants, there would be like, oh, they'd probably have to kind of look at lots of different factors. I suppose all I can say is that if you, and I think that the sad thing with what you said there with that story is that, you wonder how serious it will be taken. If you were to go to the police to say, look, I was raped by my partner, I said no, and she still performed oral sex, or she still had sex with me. And I think that's a shame, because consent is consent. If you've said no, then, she shouldn't be, having sex with you. You said no. But unfortunately, I feel like the way that the world is, that, men may not feel comfortable sort of speaking to the police about it, for example. They may not ever report something like that. In terms of if they said no, but then they changed their mind, I think that's a tricky one. I think that, I suppose it depends on the woman, on the guy. So if the guy is saying, yes, I did have sex afterwards, but I just felt like I had to, but that actual point where I said, no, you raped me, and there's enough evidence of it, then I suppose it then is then considered as rape. I think the things with rape cases, they can be so tricky to prove, because it's not, oftentimes anyway, it's not like there's a camera where people are having sex where you can actually clearly say, or clearly hear that the person said no. So it's always quite, I think, tricky to prove. But I think situations like that are probably even more tricky, because I suppose what you're saying is that you said no initially, and then you joined in at the end. So it's a bit of a tricky one to prove, isn't it?
And I totally agree. And you touched on something. You touched upon something which is very interesting. Like, men's perspective on this whole consent thing and women's perspective on this whole consent thing. I believe in a way it's totally different. I feel
Okay.
most men will not even think about ever, like the case which I just gave you, the last one, but they ever been raped. It's like, nah, like, my woman's just doing her thing. But my whole point about this is how things are seen today is totally different how they were a few years ago and whatever. And I really want to bring to light the seriousness about consent. And I know we've been talking about rape,
Yeah.
because I think that's like the worst case scenario you can actually do in these kind of things.
Yeah.
But it's really just drawing upon what does consent really look like as a definition or as a whole, but people can truly take away and understand that this is consent regardless if you're a man or a woman. So how would you really wrap it up or define it for people to really understand when they're in an intimate or sexual situation, to really be mindful of what consent really looks like?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a tricky one, because as we all know, you could be saying no when you're having sex, and it could mean yes, go ahead to some extent. It could be a sign of groaning and moaning, saying no, 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 and and it could mean the opposite. And there are times where partners are not sure, um, what their partner is actually wanting. I'd like to think though that most people would know when their partners say, look, please stop, like stop now. And that they wouldn't misunderstand that or misinterpret that as, oh, she really, really wanted it. So, because you quite clearly hear her say no. Um, Unfortunately, I think a lot of people feel like it's not very sexy to have the conversation around consent, but I think it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
Um, if I mean, there are things like safe words. So if you don't want to say, if no isn't the word to stop a situation, that you agree on another word. So it could be red, for example. Pick another word. It could be red, for example, right? So that you both know that when any one of us says red, it means stop. It means I'm in pain. It means I don't want it anymore. It means stop. So you could have, it's the safe words that are used, and often they're probably more used with like BDSM type stuff, sort of the bondage type stuff more so. But maybe that will then help then, because then you're not in a situation where you're like, well, he said no or she said no, but I thought she really wanted it, or I thought you really wanted it. Because sometimes, she says no, 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 and actually, I know she really wants me to really initiate more. So it can be a tricky one, but I think have the conversation at the beginning so you're really clear. Maybe have safe words so it's really, really transparent.
Even if you met someone for the first time and you're literally, you're out and like you draw down a girl. You meet a woman.
Is that how you guys talk?
You meet a woman and you take her back to on the same night. You're not really going to set up and initiate all that, though, are you?
No, I get that. I mean, that's probably a different kind of scenario, but I think that, in that situation, you do have to look out for cues, and I think if she's saying, no, I don't want this anymore, or can you please stop, it's hurting, like, if there's a bit of a sentence, for example, then it's likely that she's saying she doesn't want it anymore. And you'd like to think that the guy would then stop. I do think with the word no, that it could be sometimes misinterpreted. So it might be helpful to say something a bit more so that the other person really knows that you want them to stop.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so moving on to something which is, I feel, is very in line to what we've been talking about as well. Talking about the whole intimacy thing in a relationship.
Yeah.
How does a couple who's got together, obviously the honeymoon period, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months.
So long, 18 months. 3.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of relationship you've been with. You need to raise your standards. Raise your standards.
For real.
So they're in a honeymoon period, yeah. The honeymoon period and the intimacy level drops down, right? How do a couple really ignite their intimacy or build a stronger intimacy level within their relationship? What would you say are the core factors or core principles or values that people should really be working on to have a healthy, intimate relationship?
Great question. So
a bad man question.
It really is a good question. I was so excited to answer this question. I think the thing is this: when you think about when you first meet someone, what is it that keeps the spark alive? It's the fact that it's new. It's the mystery of it. It's the finding out about each other's bodies, finding out what you like, what you don't like. It's the space as well. So you're maybe living here, they're living there, and then you're going to meet together. Obviously, when you live together and you're eating together and you're going to work together in the car and you're paying bills, then the excitement may not be there. So you have a commitment to kind of make it, to add some newness to the relationship in a way. So add a bit of spice to it. So bit of role play. Let's have sex in different places. Let's go to a hotel tonight. Let's have sex in different parts of the house. Let's do a date night. Let's do some of the intimacy coach cards, my intimacy coach sex quiz cards. But those types of things, right? There are also like quizzes online that you can do. So it's like, it's about making the effort to keep it alive. And also communication as well, because I tell you, there are so many, and I'll say women because I've lots of these conversations with women that are just not enjoying the sex that they're having. They're just not enjoying it. They find it boring, or they're in pain, or it's just really routine, and the guy's having a grand old time. He's thinking that he's doing his thing, and the woman's bored. The woman's bored, or there's that whole kind of myth around, the way that a woman will have an orgasm. So, the world, society, porn, media, everywhere tells you that women will orgasm through penetrative sex. Now, statistics show that most women don't. It's through clitoral stimulation. And so what will happen? The guy will then
everybody's taking notes right now,
the guy will then rub the clit for England until it looks like this colour. until it's so sore. And sometimes the woman's too polite to say, actually, this is not really even comfortable for me. So it's about, learning about what your partner likes, what they enjoy, not assuming that, penetrative sex is the only form of sex that, that's going to please somebody. Oftentimes women will prefer oral sex. But even then, you have to listen to what she's saying in terms of what she likes and what she doesn't like and how she likes it. Because sometimes, like, I don't want to be guy bashing right now because it's like 3 guys against 1 girl here. But I feel like sometimes guys have their version of what this looks like. No, I read online it says that you got to stimulate the clitoris. Okay, great. No, I'm going to go down on you. Great, because you've seen it on porn. Excellent. But listen to what the woman's saying, because
Oh,
every
no,
woman's
you're laughing.
no, because every woman's vulva is different and needs to be caressed in a different way. So, some may like lubricant on it, some may not. Some may like the pressure of.
You're making it sound like bag of work,
And that's the problem.
Wow, God. So continue.
But can I say, that's really interesting that you said that as well, though, because one thing that women have said is that actually what turns them off the most is when they feel like the guy is bored. Like it's like, oh gosh, this is long. Like, haven't you come yet? You guys are all laughing. I'm wondering why. Right. So the thing is that oftentimes a woman wants to feel like the guy wants to be there and he's enjoying it, and it's the best thing since sliced bread, and it's like he'll be there forever, and it's that feeling of desire that wants her, that helps her to come, to orgasm. But what happened is the guy will go down there for 5 seconds and be like, okay, let's penetrate, and then he will come, and then he will go to bed and sleep good for the rest of the night, and the woman's there like, what's going on?
All right. So what are the kind of things? Okay, a man. I'm talking because I'm a man. I'm an alpha male, right? So what kind of things should a man be doing to not just the physical touch, like the mental connection? What kind of things should I be thinking about?
Communication. Yeah. Listen.
What does communication really look like?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay, I'm taking notes. Go ahead.
It's communication. It's asking the right types of questions about, what does your body like? Yeah, this is why we need to work on this.
Okay.
It's about asking the right types of questions around, what does your body need? Where do you like to be touched? Where do you not like to be touched? So
I'm not talking about the physical. I'm not talking about this, like, because with women, right? It's just like
some women.
Okay, some women. I'm sorry, I didn't like. All right, you're right. I like the way you just checked me. But some women, right?
Yeah.
Like that mental connection, first kind of things, and holding that space and communicating.
Yeah.
Right? How do you build that intimate connection with someone where you're just talking about their day and you're just really just making her feel wonderful and nice and brilliant, but you're there for them? How does a man really hold that space for a woman?
Well, it's showing that you're actively listening. I think it's really important, because I think sometimes women feel like they're talking about their day and men not listening. And as I said that, you turned that way, so that would mean you're not listening to me. No, But no, on a serious note, I think it's that women sometimes feel like men are not listening. And I think if a woman feels that you're bored, you're not really engaged in what she's saying, then you're not going to get her wanting to say much more. I suppose what I often say to clients is about creating that emotionally safe space so that your partner feels like they can speak and they can talk. So, for example, if your woman is saying to you, I just feel like sometimes you're not really that engaged with me, or that we don't talk much. If you frown or roll up your eyes, or looking down at your phone, or any of those things that she may notice you doing, then you're not encouraging her to feel safe enough to really share what she's feeling. And the thing is, with emotions, it links in with like the physical element of sex. So what can sometimes happen is that a guy doesn't understand why the woman doesn't want sex, let's say at night time. But it's like, if you press rewind and look back at what has happened earlier on, you then may see times where she hasn't felt listened to. You've been on your phone maybe where she's trying to talk to you about something that's quite important. She's maybe asked if you can wash up because she's going to be looking after the children, and you've kind of gone off with your. I mean, the list goes on. I can think quite a lot.
Yeah.
Those types of things, and then it's like, then you fast forward to the bedroom. You're wondering, why do you not want to have sex with me? And then there's a whole argument about that like a lack of intimacy. But intimacy is so much more than the bedroom. I think that's the thing. It's about, can you see the whole picture, or is it just this element here, the physical element?
And that's the part I really want to touch upon, is when does the intimacy really start? Is it from the initial conversation? Is it from the first, when I walk into the house and I hug you? So is intimacy like a journey, a story for the whole day to get to the conclusion where we want to get to the bedroom? Or is the intimacy something which needs to be consistent within a relationship regardless? So when does the intimacy really start for the couples in general?
Also, the latter. So it's very much, it has to be a part of your relationship. And I think particularly, in terms of what we were saying before about love languages, if you know that your partner's love language is physical touch, then making sure that you incorporate that affection of, if she's washing up, for example, that you're hugging her from behind, whatever it may be, or, if you're out in public, that you're holding her hand, or, it's listening to her, what love is for her, and vice versa. So I'm saying it like the guy has to the woman. But and vice versa as well. If you know that your guy, I know, likes physical touch or likes quality time with you, then making sure that he has that.
All right, so this is all nice. I just want you to give me I don't want to say a list. There's 5, no more than 5 things. So you said effective communication, listening. All that say is that the top 1 or 2 things that you can be doing to have an intimate relationship. What other 3 things would you say would really help build a great intimate relationship?
To be honest, I suppose communication is the first that kind of comes to my mind. So communication in terms of listening to each other, and really being able to articulate what you need. Keeping your relationship private, I'd say, is quite important. Of course, it's
all right. Okay, I'm gonna touch upon this one real quick.
Little drinks of water.
Yeah, like, do that. Yeah. Now, I'm not too sure if you know this. There's this dating coach guy, Derrick Jackson. Okay, so you know about Derrick Jackson.
Put this down.
Yeah. So Derrick Jackson, for those of you who don't know, is that supposedly this dating guru who panders to women all the time. And women saw him as the guy, one of the main guys to go to for relationship advice, to help them and understand men. Now, Derrick Jackson recently just has been found out he's been cheating on his wife, actually. And now his credibility has literally been shot. But in this day and age, there'll still be type of culture he's created. Women still be following him regardless.
Or not.
No, a lot of people would leave him. But a lot of people
following him.
Yeah, but a lot of women will still follow him. But my thing is, though, in regards to building healthy relationships, you said keep things private. A lot of people now, especially today with social media, love to post their pictures, videos with their partners, and stuff like that. Would you say that should be, people should stop doing that unless they have a real strong relationship and both parties are happy doing that? Or is that something you feel that should not be happening? And the reason why I brought Derrick Jackson into this whole conversation is he's been out there doing his things, and a lot of people have been following him and listening to him about relationship and intimacy and everything else. But he hasn't been the best person to really do his viewpoints may still be questionable or it may be on point, but he does post a lot of himself out there.
Yeah.
He's recently now started posting his wife out there. My thing was he should have never put his wife on blast like that. He should have he did the deed. It should have been left by himself.
She should have never put herself there. She has a choice.
She has a choice. 100%.
We'd like to hope that she has a choice.
Yeah, but my thing, that's why it just triggered in my mind. Like, why did you bring a wife? That it should have been left private. So that's why I brought Derrick Jackson into this. And plus, it's a mad talking back. I never liked that guy in the first place.
Really?
Yeah. I thought,
why?
I thought the stuff that he was talking about was like a bag of nonsense.
Okay.
Like to me, he was too one-sided. Like he didn't look at the whole big picture of men and women like what you have done.
Yeah.
He looked at the whole picture where he just panders to women and lets them he tells them what he wants them to hear, what makes them feel good, but he doesn't address the root issue. But anyway, the original question I wanted to ask you, which you just said, which you stated, number 2 was keep things private. So is there levels when you should be keeping things private?
I mean, it's a personal choice, isn't it? I think if you decide to put your whole relationship on Facebook, blah, blah, is in a relationship with blah, blah, then recognise that X number of people will be interested also when blah, blah, and blah, blah split up. So you then don't go through that in private. Like I said, it's a personal choice. But I think in terms, when I say keeping it private, I mean, some of the arguments, if you're working through something, it doesn't always have to, speaking to friends about it, speaking to your mum about it, I think when you involve so many people, it's kind of hard, isn't it, to then get to a stage to work out what you actually think and feel. So of course it's probably helpful to have a support network, so you've got somebody that you can go to that can kind of, so you can just talk it through. But I think make sure the person that you go to is somebody that you trust, but also somebody that has shown you that they know how to have a successful relationship. Because oftentimes you'll get women in relationships that are going to their single friends and say, you never guess what he did. And it's like, but your single friend's been single for most of their life, which could be for all different reasons, but they may not have experience of relationships. So would they be the right person to go to? And also as well, like, I think with conflict and argument, oftentimes they're so complex. So, even like when I see couples where the guy has cheated and, they've come to me because they want to try and work through it, what I look at, and I know this might be controversial, but me, I'm controversial, so I say it like it is. I feel like, what, in some situations, not all, it's important to look at the quality of the relationship even before this happened. Because yes, the guy's responsible, he cheated, and that wasn't what was agreed within the union.
Mhm.
But I think also the woman has to look at, was there any, relationships are co-created, so was there anything there that I could have done differently, or, so I think it is important just to reflect that. And it might be that there was nothing she could have done differently, but I think it's about having that openness to kind of explore what happened there, to get to that stage.
I love that. Like right now, okay, because I know we're on communication number one. So these are like 5 things. Okay, I did ask for you, but can actually help build a stronger intimate relationship. So communication definitely number one. Keep things private.
Mm.
I like what you just said. I'm just going to throw it in there for you anyway. Is to be able to explore the full picture of the relationship, if things
Yeah.
are going right or wrong as well. 2 more.
Yeah, now I thought you put me on the spot because I
Yeah,
should make
yeah.
it like it's.
Just give me 2 more.
Remind me the question again.
Okay,
Good
so
lord, good lord.
yeah, 5 things. Okay, 5 things that can actually help build a strong, intimate relationship. So communication is number one.
Yeah.
Keep things private is number two. Explore the full relationship. Okay, I like what you said as well. I'm gonna say with someone else, with a professional, if you can do,
Yeah.
to make sure that you're looking at the full picture of the relationship. So
Mhm.
give me 2 more.
I would say, because you really are putting me on the spot now,
Yeah.
I would say give yourself some space. I think it's very difficult to work out what's going on in the relationship, what your role is, what their role is, if you're in like a pressure cooker. And I know it's quite difficult with the pandemic, with what's going on right now, and everyone's like at home. But it's important to give yourself some space to think, to work out what you want to do, to calm down as well. Because if you think about it, when you're in that place of anger or frustration or feeling hurt or abandoned or rejected, all those emotions that make you want to either sort of fight and argue or run away, you do need that space to be able to kind of calm down, so that that logical part of your brain can kick in and you can work out, okay, what's my next steps here? What do I do? So I'd say be able to give each other some space as well. It's really important. Is that number 4?
It's number 4. One more. One more. Go ahead.
I can't think of number 5.
I'll give you number 5. All right, then when number 5 comes to you,
I'll let you
um,
know.
yeah. But I'm gonna throw in a number 5 because
Okay.
I feel like that. For me, which I think is very very important, is to create a day or a time in the week where both of you can sit down and have an honest and open time with each other.
Yeah.
So it's like a question and answer time. So literally connect with it's like a connection time.
Hmm.
So you could say every Friday or Saturday or weekend, you can sit down and say, hey, how do you honestly feel?
Yeah.
Check in with that person.
Mhm.
Am I connecting to your love language? What can I be doing better?
Hmm.
Because one of the key things is we assume that the person that we met today is going to be the same 5-10 years from now.
Right.
But it's important to actually check in with that person on a regular basis to see if things are changing within them.
Yeah.
Because I
That's
used
it.
to hate ackee and saltfish, but now I love it.
Yeah.
See,
That's a
people
great
change.
example.
Yeah, things
Love that
change.
example.
Yeah. Things change all the time, and
Yeah.
people we always change as well. So that to me, that's the number 5. Create time to check in with your partner at least once a week.
Yeah, and probably I'm creating a 6 here. Take
See,
responsibility for your own actions.
now you want to add, yeah? Now you want to
Well,
add,
do you
yeah?
know what? I suppose there are so many. I suppose
Yeah.
probably we need to think about it, but also take responsibility for your own role in the situation.
Mm.
I tell you what, we are a culture. You spoke about cancel culture. We're also a culture of blame.
Yeah.
And I tell you, when you work with couples, you ask them what's going on in the relationship, and they can tell you powerfully what's happening with the other person, with power, passion, conviction, what's happening with the other person. And I tested this with a couple the other day, where I said to the guy, I started with the guy, I said, what do you feel like your role has been in this?
Silence.
Silence. And it was like, but he could tell me what his partner's role was. And
Yeah.
it's that, isn't it? Can you see the other person's fault, but also see the role that you played in that as well?
All right. So before I start talking about your wonderful cars which you got over there, a question just jumped into my head. And
Oh
also
no!
I had it on the screen as
Oh
well.
gosh, here goes.
No, it's a big question to everything you've been saying though.
Okay.
Right. So with relationships and understanding what a good relationship looks like,
Mhm.
usually it's modeled off things that we've seen. It could, like, a lot of people have this kind of Disney mentality of how a relationship should be.
Mm.
Oh my god, once we fall in love, that's gonna be done. Stop it, shut up. Right?
Well, it can be like that.
You know, what?
It can be like that for some
For a while,
people.
no, yeah, for a while, but like life happens.
Yeah.
Okay, and like,
Yeah.
situations happens in a relationship. Hence, why you've got to have a solid foundation of communication and everything else
Sure.
that comes with it. So my question that I wanted to really throw at you in regards to this is, when people learn about relationships from dysfunctional places, from parents, from TV and stuff like that, and they
Mm.
try to model a relationship based on not really seeing what a good relationship really looks like in the real life.
Mm.
Okay, how do you unlearn some of the stuff? So how do people unlearn not to communicate like, for example, like, man talking to a woman. How does he unlearn just like trying to fix everything? And like, all right,
Mm.
to stop her nagging, he just gets on and do it. Just like, all right, I heard you. Gets on with it,
Yeah.
fixes what the problem is, and yet she's still not in a good place because she hasn't. How does a man really unlearn to sit down and just listen to his woman first before he goes
Mm.
away and fixes it? So yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think it's a really good question. I think, when we our parents to some extent are templates of, if they were together, in terms of what a relationship is, how we
Yeah, my parents were a great template.
interact.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you unlearn that
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I suppose that, it's so unconscious, isn't it, that we kind of, that's our example
Yeah.
of relationships. And it may not just be that, it may be other influences as well growing up. But I think often what happens is the first relationship you get into, you might do what you've learned because there's no other template. But I think that then creates an experience that you learn from, that helps you, usually that then helps you in your next relationship. I think that's probably why, when you get like people that are much older, that get when they get married, that it probably lasts because they've learned so much about themselves, and they're able to communicate, and they're able to let things go and to forgive, and all those other ingredients that are needed for a healthy relationship. But in your younger years, if your only template is maybe a bad experience with your parents, then where else can you get any kind of learning from other than what you've learned, right?
Yeah, but how do you unlearn? Yeah, and that's a fair point you just made. But how do you unlearn that as a man?
It's a process. It's, I think the first stage is to be aware that this is behavior that you don't want to what you don't want to happen. Sometimes people come to couple therapists, and we kind of work through that with clients,
Mm.
and it could be things like, I don't know, your partner sort of bring it to your attention that this is happening. I can create a situation within the couple therapy where we talk about a particular situation, and we pick it apart, and we look at, how could you have done that situation? How could you have created a different situation to get a different outcome? And that sort of then kind of something clicks, and I think for the guy or the girl, that when a scenario like this happens again, okay, I need to think differently, because they've got kind of a newer template that's been created within the couple therapy. So I suppose that's probably one of the best ways to do it, but it takes time. I think if you've learned something in your younger years, then it's not so easy to just change it. It really isn't. And you've got to want to as well, because there are some people that have learned things that aren't great, but they're actually okay still living like that because it works for them.
And I think that's very that's one of the key things which I'm realizing as well, because I know I'm asking the questions, how does someone unlearn them? And you're absolutely right. The first thing is that they have to
Mm,
acknowledge, as you said earlier, acknowledge that there is things which is going wrong in the relationships, and
yeah.
and do need to work on this. But
Mm.
my thing is that, where do you really go? Do you join other couple groups? Do you go to therapy? Like, I guess they could just test it out for themselves to really learn what they can be doing to make it better.
Yeah, I suppose it depends what it is though as well. I suppose what if you got an specific example of what
Okay,
that
okay,
is?
okay. So, if I'm in a relationship with somebody,
Yeah.
and or I've been in multiple relationships, and one of the main causes of me splitting up is
Mm.
someone says that I am not very, um, I want to say, I'm not emotionally available.
Okay.
Like, I'm a good man, but the emotional connection is not there.
Yeah.
But that seems to be like a constant pattern. But I keep having it on my relationships, and it's breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
How do I unlearn something like that if I feel that's me and it's not my thing? So.
Yeah, so I suppose you need to want to change it, because I think if there's no motivation to change, then it's probably not going to happen. But also, I think what you need to be able to articulate is how your partner can help you to be more intact with your emotional self. So this is a common issue.
But is it the partner's like responsibility to help you unlearn these things, or bring it to your attention, or not?
It's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's their responsibility, but if you're in a loving relationship, if I'm in a loving relationship and my partner is struggling to reach out to me and open up emotionally, and that's what I need him to do for us to be close, then I would need him to say to me, okay, what would you need for me to help you? You know, I can be a part of that process. And it might be him saying, okay, don't ask me to have a conversation when I've just come from work on a Friday evening when I'm tired. But, you know, it's about timing. So then we can have a discussion to say, okay, when would be the best time to have a conversation when you feel not so stressed? And he might say, Sunday afternoon. So then I then know that during the week, if I've got anything I want to speak to him about, I'm not going to get the response that I want by, you know, goading him on a Friday evening, because he's told me that actually Sunday afternoons when he will open up. He may then say, actually, there are times when we talk where, you know, sometimes I'm saying something to you and I feel like you've just dismissed what I've said, or you're looking at your phone, or you're rolling up your eyes. So he's told me that. So he's actually telling me what I need not to do in order for him to feel comfortable to open up. So do you see what I mean? So it is working together. So it's so easy for a partner to say, well, you don't open up to me. And I've heard couples say, in fact, I have to say, I love my women, but oftentimes it's the women that will say to the guy, you just don't open up. Why is it now you're in couple therapy? Now you're open up to Charlene, but you don't open up to me. But what I say to a woman, it's this. If you say to a child, you know, if the child's in the corner, you say to a child, talk to me, come on, talk to me. Why are you not talking to me? Come on, there's a child going to want to talk to you. So you have to create an environment where the person feels safe enough to want to. So that's why I say it's not just, let's say, the man's responsibility to open up, it's also the woman's responsibility to create the environment so he feels comfortable doing that.
I hope every woman's taking notes right now, because that was golden bars right there. Like, got my
it goes both ways, though.
Yeah. I got back excited, like knocking over my water and everything. I'm trying to like create that environment for a man can actually want to be able to talk as well is very important.
It goes two ways. I'm not sure if you heard that part. No one thinks.
I like the way you say that again. It's just like, don't do that. Like, I just remember that's the one thing I remember from all of this. All right, so we have your beautiful cards over there,
yes,
which I'm gonna be doing a competition on as well. Do you want to talk about them? Because actually, it's right there.
Yeah. So right these are my Intimacy Coach UK, which is my brand name. It's a sex quiz cards. So basically, the reason why I created them was because there are couples I work with that just don't talk about sex. Like, they've been together for years. I'm talking some of them 20, 30 years, and they've never actually had the conversation about sex. You know, I'd say, what turns
what do you mean they don't have a conversation?
What turns your partner on? They will say, I don't know. I know he likes, like, when I touch his penis, he's all right. But, like, you know, and it's those conversations, you know, or like, yeah, when I touch her nipples, she likes it. Yeah, she likes it. But they don't know much more. So I just thought, you know what, this is a good idea to help people to talk about sex, because what will then happen is I'd say to them, okay, maybe choose a day during the week for a date night, where you can have conversations about intimacy and sex and your relationship. And then they'd say, well, I don't really know, like, where to start. Like, how do you start the conversation about sex? Like, oh, what do you like? What do I like? What do you like? Sort of thing. So these cards are kind of a fun way to kind of have that conversation. And there are some sort of shocking questions where you're like, oh gosh, do I have to answer those? But there are some that are fairly mild by my standards.
I'm not going to do one. It just came out. It just came, like, it's at the bottom of the pack, people, and it's still wrapped up. It's just there.
Yeah.
My reading voice. If your partner agreed, would you have a threesome? I was like, yeah. Not me personally, yeah, but I'm a one-man, woman-man, yeah.
Is that just because your woman's here?
I'm saying, like, just want to throw this out there. But I'm saying these are the kind of questions that's in this pack right now. So I know a lot of men are going to be buying this card, which is very good, and I love it. These are the kind of things which I feel will definitely help people within their relationship as well. Just have those intimate questions. And as
Yeah.
you said, a lot of people don't actually really talk about sex as well. But you know what? I have a question for you.
Oh gosh, let me drink
Alright.
water again.
Yeah, alright, this is actually a good question. It's actually nothing I haven't got here,
Okay.
but just jumped into my head. What question would you love to be asked on an interview that no one's ever asked you? Another bad boy question. Put you on the spot right now.
I feel like all questions have been asked of me actually.
Think about it.
I was just gonna say I don't know, but I don't think you're gonna allow me to just say
I
I
would.
don't know. But
If you're,
yeah, to be honest, I think when it comes to the world of sex and relationships, I feel like I've pretty much been asked every possible question. From what's the kind of weirdest thing you've heard to why did you get into this industry? So
Mhm.
I don't know.
No questions? Okay, cool. No, absolutely fine. Then
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave with one more question before we actually wrap up. I can't believe we've done so long. I'm only looking at the time now. George gave me not like George is being so engrossed over there. Yeah, George didn't say nothing. All right, so
3 hours later, still here.
this has been flowing. My goodness. All right, cool. My last question to you, right?
Okay.
So, if someone right now is struggling in a relationship,
Mm.
with intimacy, with the whole communication thing, what would you say would be the first point for a couple to really start getting that relationship back on track?
Go to intimacycoachuk.com, my website,
Yeah, that's right.
my website, and fill out my booking form, where they can have a free 20-minute consultation, and then from there they can book a session.
Okay, so that's one. So give me another. Give me a bonus one.
The Intimacy Coach No, on a serious note. So, sorry, ask me the question again.
Okay, so if someone is having relationship issues right now, intimacy relationship, they're not connecting, they're arguing, the relationship's on the rocks right now. Okay, what can they do right now to really start getting things back on track? What do you think they should be doing?
Well, I mean, there's lots of things that they could be doing. I think that sometimes it can be quite tricky to work things out when it's just the two of you. You know, people get into arguments, and so it might be a case that you might need a facilitator. I mean, it doesn't always have to be a couple therapist. It could just be someone, maybe an older person that you trust, someone in your church, in the mosque, somebody that you respect who maybe is married, been married for years, or something like that. So I'd say be open to getting help, because sometimes it's hard to work it out when it's just the two of you. Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing. I think because if you're in a bit of a situation where you're arguing, and there's lots of conflict, it's really not so easy to even listen to each other, because everyone's in that state of I'm right. It's like contender 1 against contender 2 type of thing. So no one's going to back down. So I think it is, even for me to say, listen to each other, sit down, let one person speak first, and then. But as soon as your partner's saying something you don't agree with, you can't let them finish. Or maybe that's just me, I don't know. But,
Mad woman. Are you mad? You know what? You're trying to bag her up in here.
I was like, how you talk to your woman?
No, I'm calm. I mean, you better take with that instruction. I can bag a noise over. That's wrong with you.
Like, oh, okay.
I'm just saying. I've been watching a lot of Batman TV recently. So.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think if you believe you're right, if you feel like you have been hard done by your partner, it's very difficult to sit down and let's talk it through. That could be really quite tricky. What I find, I'm not just saying this to plug what I do, but I'm sure I'm plugging it as I'm saying it, is to be, if you can get a couple therapists, if you can get a facilitator to help, just to kind of like calm the situation down so you can listen to each other. Because the thing is, it really is about listening in a different way. Oftentimes couples will say, oh, I didn't know that that's what she felt, or I didn't know that's what he felt, because they haven't really been listening. Because it's that classic, you believe that they're wrong, so you're not really listening to what they're saying. You only listen to 3 words. You wait for them to finish, so you can tell them why they're wrong.
So they're reacting, not responding to the situation.
Absolutely. And so if you're both in that reactive space, then no one's listening to each other. It will just escalate. And then what you'll do, you look in your bucket of, what can I really throw to really, it's like, and then they will look in their bucket and see what they can. The sex weren't even good. After, it's one of those. And then it's just explosive, and everyone's hurt and angry and door slam, and you walk away. So it is about, can you really speak to each other honestly and vulnerably, and that may need a facilitator.
Love that.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much, Queen Charlene.
Thank you.
Do you have any upcoming events, webinars, shows, Zooms, Teams coming up?
No.
Okay.
Well, no. I mean,
Alright.
well, no, I don't. But I think, as I said to you a little bit earlier, that there is. I'll be on a Channel 4 show soon that I haven't signed the contract for, so I can't actually say what it is yet. But
Alright.
it is like prime time TV.
Okay.
So it's bigger than
big
Sex
time.
Clinic. Big time.
Big time. All right.
Yeah.
So that means, okay, that I'm so happy you came down from your Ivy Tower to speak to the little people like myself.
Oh, I'll
So
always
thank you.
come to see you, Dee. You know that.
A special one. All right. So how do people connect with you one more time?
Okay, so my website, www.theintimacycoachuk.com. It's a little bit long.
Don't worry, it's going to be on the caption anyway.
Theintimacycoachuk.com. So it's a little bit long. But I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and
What's your
Twitter.
handles?
Instagram is intimacy_coach1.
Wow. Okay.
And Twitter's the same
Okay.
as well. Yeah.
All right. Any final words you want to leave the people with?
I think, it's funny because when you think about sex and intimacy, people always use the word communication. It's kind of like when you go to a doctor's and you've got a medical problem and they say it's stress, and you just think, oh, for goodness sake, like you just want them to say something. Not that you want them to say something bad, but you just think, oh, is that just a bit of a cop out saying stress? But I think when it comes to relationships, you just have to learn how to communicate in an effective way to make the relationship work.
And just come to you.
And come to me.
Yes.
Come to me. Oh gosh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Come to me.
All right, people. So if you love these type of shows, please subscribe to our channel, press a notification bell, click on the thumbs up or thumbs down, and literally, please support what we're doing. I need to start feeding in Stretch. So if you can start buying the packages from Patreon, which you'll see the link below, that would be fantastic. Really love your support and you watching and seeing this phenomenal guest. We got like Queen Charlene before she blows up and becomes a superstar. Remember, you saw her here first on Exclusive Vision Podcast, Love, Life and Business. And everyone, you know how we do this. Stay true, stay humble. Thank you very much for tuning in. All right, bye-bye.